everybody. How you doing? Here we are. We're live. We're going a little bit earlier today. I know it was originally scheduled for like about a half hour from now, but we're going a little bit sooner so that the folks over at Eagle Nation here, who are here to speak with us today, can get home at a timely hour rather than an ungodly one. So, how you guys doing? We have Kay and Steve here to start with us here, and we're going to chat a little bit. We're going to talk about roughly go over some of the things that happened at Eagle Nation that kind of led up to the day that Flat Off, arrives and begins to take hostages and do what he did that day, which ultimately ended up in the death of Michael Funk by Neenah PD officer by the name of Hoffer. So we're going to go through some of those things. So hi, Steve. Hi, Kay.
Hi, Eric.
Hey.
How you doing? So
Good.
Obviously, I was out in Wisconsin recently, and I got to talk with Steve and a lot of people there, and got to find out a lot more of what went down, and it really didn't. It was a long game, I guess you might say, because back in 2012, there's some interesting things that happened. Obviously, downtown Neenah is being built up. It's a lot of nice new buildings there, and they're building it up and everything. And then the only vehicles left to be the only buildings left to be made up were the one where Eagle Nation and some other businesses were. And although there's no outward proof, it looks pretty obvious that they were coming down the main strip of Neenah there, and these new buildings that they are building are just like stunning. Lots of glass and lots of various things, so that they're very very modern looking buildings and stuff. So suddenly in 2012, we have Neenah PD is raiding Eagle Nation Cycles, apparently because they believe it's a big drug operation. It's I don't know, either they're cooking dope or they have this idea in their head, and so they raid Eagle Nation in 2012. This raid is led by none other than Lieutenant Hoffer. Hoffer is the guy in 2015 who fires the shots and kills Michael Funk. So he is the leader of this raid in 2012. The interesting thing about this raid, amongst many things, is the fact that they found nothing, is the first interesting fact, except for one tiny little piece of marijuana, literally no bigger than the end of my pinky finger. And that's it. Big drug operation, and they only find that. Now, this happens after, so that day, Neenah PD took Eagle Nation Cycles camera footage, confiscated it, did whatever they were doing with it, and when they brought it back, there was 20 seconds of video missing right before they found that weed, in an office. So that's an interesting thing. They were sure to collect that video, and suddenly right before that, contraband shows up, there's missing 20 seconds of film. Just an interesting little thing. But the other interesting thing about it is it's led by Hoffer. Anything you would add to that, Steve, that I'm missing at that point?
No, you're covering it pretty good, Eric.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So now we have that situation, and they basically found nothing. There was nothing going on. They brought all kinds of charges, but they ended up having to drop them because there just wasn't any substance, for them. They tore up Eagle Nation. I mean, I have another video that shows just like all the different rooms and everything that just got torn up and tossed, and everything just wrecked. And because these cops were desperately looking for a drug operation, whatever that meant to them, but they didn't find that, and so eventually you guys, because it was unlawful, or it was seemingly unlawful, it seems like unlawful to me, but they did. But you and Michael then filed a suit, or filed a lawsuit.
What was that again?
I said after the 2012 raid, everything, you and Michael then filed a lawsuit, right?
Along with, there was 2 other girls that were involved with the raid too. The 4 of us filed it.
Okay, so you and Michael and 2 other girls. So you filed that. Okay, so it's and they're basically, it's like, what was it, 50 million?
The lawyer filed it for $50 million.
Okay. Now, of course, we all know that 50 million would have probably not been what was, got, if there was a judgment, it probably wouldn't have been for 50 million. It would have been most likely for less, but that's the number that was being sought. And while this is going on, while this is going on, that's when suddenly, we've got, like I said, there's, I guess I want to go back here for a second. Something interesting that Steve had told me about what SWAT teams can do there in Wisconsin or there in Neenah or whatever is if they find a drug operation or something like that, a highly illegal, narcotics operation or whatever, that they can then confiscate the building.
Correct.
Like SWAT can take the building unto themselves. Or the officers, basically. I'm not exactly sure how that would work or who it belongs to in the meantime. But from what I understand, then those SWAT officers can then take that and sell it, do whatever, and profit from it. Is that about correct?
The building and anything that's in it, they can just take the whole works, close it down, and
So
that's the end
if
of
they
it.
take it and it just becomes the city of Neenah's property, or it becomes the SWAT property?
SWAT property.
Becomes
The
SWAT's
police
property.
department's property.
And then the SWAT team can then sell it back to the city, right?
Yeah, for $1 or whatever,
Or $1 million.
Or for
or
whatever.
$1 million. Yeah, whatever.
Or
they
for a nice little chunk of change, so they all get a little chunk out of it, right? I'm sure.
Sure.
Anyway, so that's an interesting. I mean, we can't say that that's what's happening here because obviously that they didn't find a drug operation, and so that wasn't able to be done. So we can't really prove that that's what they were up to. But when you find out that little tidbit, and then you find out that they were just hoping on a wing and a prayer because they actually didn't find diddly squat that they were hoping they would find. So that's interesting, right? So that's one possibility of what was going on in 2012. The lawsuit's filed. Eventually, it runs into problems. There apparently, I guess your lawyer, right, Steve, didn't let you guys know you were supposed to be in court, right?
That's how it got thrown out, correct.
And that's how your case ended up getting thrown out. So
Right.
There's a problem with the fact that, their own lawyer kind of screwed the pooch and didn't let them know that they were supposed to be in court. And so the judge then, when they weren't there that day, the judge said, okay, boom, throwing it out. It's out, done. And that's it. It was the end of the lawsuit. So that was when did that exactly happen, Steve?
Well, the other thing I want to add to that is that we did, when that was thrown out, we did, the 4 of us, me, Michael, and the 2 girls, hired another attorney, and he filed a motion to reconsider, where he wrote in a letter and explained to the judge that threw everything out that we were never told, and that he would make sure that we would be there, and that it was a mistake on the part of the other attorney, and the judge threw it out anyway. He wouldn't reconsider.
Right. Because yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure he can. I'm sure that's at his discretion to do, but yeah, it seems unfair. It seems really unfair. I mean, it seems like it should fall under ineffective assistance of counsel to me. I mean, that's like derelicting in his duties. He didn't tell you guys you needed to be in court. Like, duh. What's the point of you, dude? That's like your job to make sure that we're there.
run out of it.
Right? So
you got to remember, you have to ask yourself who benefits when something like that happened. Well, the city had a $50 million lawsuit. We had police officers planning dope. We had the missing tape. All of that stuff would have been used in court and would have been presented to a jury, except the judge threw it out so it couldn't be. It was never presented to a jury.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, well, don't get me started on what I think is this good old boys club over there in Wisconsin. So, because we got a similar network over there in Manitowoc.
Yeah,
and it just goes right up to the state. I mean, it just goes right up the line, and the state just toes every little county's little line there. I just, oh God, it's unreal to me. It blows me away. Why the state would want to, instead of just cutting the crap and stop trying to babysit all these stupid, things that have been done, like with Steven and Brendan. I mean, they're so busy covering their butts. But anyway, that's not what we're here about.
Well, these cops had an agenda. They just didn't have it worked out very well.
Right. The case was dropped in when? What year?
Actually, wasn't it dropped after?
It was after
Michael got killed.
After Michael died. Yeah.
It was
After
actually
Michael
dropped after, yeah, because we saw it on TV. We saw it on the ticker tape on the bottom of the TV that the case was dropped. And that was like probably a good month after Michael was killed.
The $50 million lawsuit was in effect at the time when they killed Michael.
Correct.
Right.
Judge
So
ruling it before.
Yeah, so it was at least a month after Michael got killed when they threw it out of court.
Yeah, it appears so. Yeah, it's once again, it's something that could, I mean, is clearly a motive that the city of Neenah would have against you guys. It's an issue or a gripe or a grudge that the city of Neenah would have against you guys for certain. But yeah, so that's the other part of this, because it was originally Hoffer's raid in 2012, and it ends up being Hoffer who ends up putting the cap on this by killing Michael Funk.
Right. And Hoffer had been here
so
a couple times in between that time, for somebody shot the window out and stuff, and Hoffer was the cop that came to do the investigation on that. So he made his appearance around here a couple times in between all that.
Right. And I actually have put up a clip of video, folks, I think that some of you have seen, where we actually see Michael Funk on the video, and he's like, I'm here talking to an officer, and he leans across and he goes, Hoffer. So you know that Hoffer was right there face to face with Michael Funk 3 months before Hoffer killed him.
Right. But he still said he didn't know Michael Funk.
Right, exactly, which makes his claim that he didn't know Michael Funk a little bit more ridiculous. So that's another interesting tidbit there, folks. It was Hoffer's raid in 2012 that the $50 million lawsuit was all about. And then in 2015, we have Hoffer shooting Michael Funk, and suddenly the lawsuit's dissipating a month later.
Right.
And their lawyer fails to let them know that they need to appear in court. That's interesting.
But we also
did he fail, or was he intimidated into not telling them, I wonder?
But Steve also got a letter from the attorney afterwards, kind of explaining to him that, I've got a family and, getting involved in all this, and kind of just, signs that be careful, Steve. So, who knows who got to him. That was the excuse they used, was he didn't didn't tell them that they needed to do the depositions and to appear in court. So you got to wonder about that.
So, yeah. So, so this is, kind of everything going on around, Eagle Nation at this time. So, as everybody knows by the name of the video over here, today we're going to be speaking with a couple of the hostages. One who you see in the background there right now, that is Ryan Motorson, and we will also be speaking with Michael Peterson. And so, how you guys doing?
We're doing good.
All right. So, I guess one of the things I want to know is kind of more about what happened that day. Like when that day when this went down, I don't know, say what was happening a half an hour before Brian Flatoff showed up.
Rhino can probably answer that the best. Rhino was here working with Michael Funk that morning.
Hey, Brian?
Yeah, I worked here on and off for 10 years. And, if I needed something for my bike, we'd barter back and forth. That's how it always worked.
Right.
And so normally every Saturday I'd come in and, a little after 8, Mad was always downstairs working out. And just visit with ML, do our thing. And that morning, I gave him my family's Christmas card, and we were just chatting it up. My son was with me. He was 16 at the time, and he came in to clean the floors and just generally mopping up, and we give him a few bucks for it. And
Right.
pretty much just getting ready for breakfast at 10:30, you know. And
So you actually served a breakfast you actually were
yeah,
about to, right?
Breakfast, yeah.
But he interrupted before that, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, way
Right.
before that. And I hadn't been here maybe half hour or 45 minutes, and we heard a truck pull up at the back door, and both kind of looked at each other like, "You expecting somebody?" And I said, "No, nobody. I didn't tell anybody to come down here," and he didn't either. And so he walked out the door, because, you know, only people we know come up to the back door, especially when we're really not open yet. You know, I mean, we open at 8 o'clock, or we did then, but
You're thinking regular.
Showed up till
right?
about, you know,
Right.
10 o'clock, just wanted to eat. So thought it was kind of out of no ordinary. And he walked out the back door, and a couple of minutes go by. I'm working on a bike, and then ML came walking back through the door with his hands up, and that's when I saw Flat Off was behind him, and it was kind of, well, this is going to be a bad day for sure, because I saw the gun he had already, and I looked over at my son, and I kind of gave him a signal to head out the front door, and he did. And Flat Off, I don't think he even noticed that he was in here, you know. And
okay, I was just about to ask about that. So your son booked it. Okay, good.
Oh yeah, he was. I mean, it's just a family thing, you know. If something's going on, I can give him a look, and he knows. Okay, I just need to go back. And
Right.
What happened to Ethan after?
Yeah, what happened to Ethan?
Yeah, then Ethan went out and sat in his truck, and he thought, you know, my dad's not coming. And so he started going down the alley, and that's when, well, I'm sorry. He drove around the building, and then he parked again and thought, you know, something isn't right. And by that time, he heard Flat Off fire that warning shot inside the building.
Okay.
And that's when he started heading over to ML's wife's house, which is literally across the street.
Right.
And, or it was.
Across the alley.
Yeah. And before he even got there, the cops pulled him out of his truck. And I don't think anybody had called 911 yet. I mean, I really don't. It's been a while. I don't remember. I should have probably read my statement, because I told the absolute truth on exactly what happened. So
right. So, well, it could be that. That's interesting.
But they didn't just pull him out of the truck. They
they
threw
had a
him on the
rifle
ground
pointed at
and
him, and the school liaison officer happened to be on duty that Saturday, and she's actually a decent person. As
It
far
would
as
be interesting to know what time that happened and what time the first 911 call was made. That would be intriguing to see how those line up.
After he walked through the door, I really didn't pay attention until I noticed it was dark outside. So it had been a good 8 or 9 hours before I actually realized what time it was in the day. Everything was just so fucked up. It just went bad.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. So that's what was going on in the morning, right? You guys were actually getting ready to have, was it a pancake breakfast?
It depends. I think it was actually a ham day, so it would have been a really good day.
There you go, ham.
Everybody loves ham day, you know.
Yeah, I love ham for breakfast.
Ryan's favorite, ham and cheese.
There you go. Dude, I love cooking up a ham steak for breakfast, man. Anyway.
That was you know, it was ML's. You know, if Mad was making ham earlier in the week, we were both excited because we knew we were having ham for breakfast and ham and bean soup next week with the ham bowl.
There you go.
So, I mean,
there you go.
You know, this just doesn't last one day or one lunch. You're thinking about next week already what you're going to do. And it was that regular. You know, that's what I'm trying to get at, that you wouldn't believe the amount of kids that would come in here that I don't think they were getting fed all that well at home, because they would eat more than the 300-pound bikers we had in here. You know, some little 9-year-old kid would show up and, you know, hey, can I have a plate of that? Absolutely. You know, and if we run out, we'd make more. I mean, it was. It was
I was there for the spaghetti, man. It was pretty good. So, okay. So, and obviously, when does Michael, if you don't mind, when did you actually end up coming into the situation here?
I probably walked over, I would say probably around 9-ish, maybe,
9. Okay.
maybe about 9:30, somewhere in there.
And when you got there, was Flat Off already there, or?
Yes, Rhino, he was working on the motorcycle when I first walked through the back door.
Putting together Flat Off's motorcycle, you mean?
Yeah, well, before he came in, Flat Off standing there with that pistol, and he says, well, this is my bike. I want it off of that lift, and I want you to start putting it back together. And he's, pretty much pointing the gun at me with his finger on the trigger the whole time. So yeah, you bet I'll put together whatever you want me to. And
Right.
so I pushed it over by the back door.
Okay.
Because I knew the way the camera angle was from the ceiling, that whatever's going on by that back door is going to be on camera. So I started putting it on.
Right.
Putting it back together. And,
good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
I learned from ex-military vets.
So okay, so after that happens, okay, so after Flat Off comes in, waving the gun at you, get you to get his bike off the lift and start putting it back together, then Michael, you come in, right?
Yep. Mike Peterson comes through the door, and and I even said to him, he looked at me, "Morning, Rhino," and I said, "Get the fuck out of here," but he couldn't understand what I was saying, and he just kind of looked at me like, "Well, you're an asshole this morning," and just kept walking, and
I mean, we can laugh now, right? Looking back, but oh, jeez. So that's funny. So you walk in, you obviously didn't get the message that Rhino was sending you, and you walk back there, and what do you see?
I walked up towards ML. He was sitting at that time when I walked in at a counter, usually where people gathered around when we had our breakfast. That was one of the spots that somebody would sit and eat at. And there was somebody standing right behind him, somebody I'd never seen before. And so I walked up to ML and said, "Good morning." Well, he didn't say nothing back, but he kind of rolled his eyes at me too, trying to give me a sign with his eyes without moving the back of his head.
Everybody was probably just going, "Oh, why did you have to walk in here right now?"
No, I was still a little bit slow, I guess, on that.
Yeah, no worries.
I knew something was up because he didn't say good morning back. And so I was going to stick around, and Flat Off said to me, "I think you ought to get out of here." And I thought he was joking around, so I kind of said, "Well, I'm not ready to leave yet." Well, he had like a Levi jacket on, and he reached inside there and pulled out I guess it was a 9mm.
Right.
And the machine pistol, and it looked pretty big.
Right.
So he pointed that at me, and he said, "You think I'm kidding?" And I knew all
not
that.
anymore.
Yeah. I says, "Yeah, I think I better leave now." And then he said, "You're not going anywhere."
Right.
So that was it. He told me to get over by the counter and
by the counter. Oh, okay.
By the counter.
The kitchen counter, you mean, over in the kitchen area?
Yes, right. It was a little.
It used to be further out into the shop.
It was different then than what.
Oh, okay.
But basically in the same area.
Roughly in that area. Okay.
And so that's pretty much. I just kind of hugged the counter.
That's how you got introduced to it. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess I was wondering. I guess let's go with Michael first. Did he appear to you to be heavily intoxicated? Did you smell alcohol in his breath? And
I never got that close to him.
Never got that close. How about? Did he look like he was having trouble with his motor skills at all?
Well, he wasn't normal. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. He was under the influence of something.
Yeah, he definitely was. Okay, slurring. Was he
In
like
my
slurring?
opinion, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he had a
'Cause-
couple of hunting nights that he kept wanting to play with all the time. And he asked Camille a couple of times, you think these are sharp enough to cut an arm off or something to that effect, you know.
Ugh.
He was scary.
Right. Okay. That's he's wanting to cut people's arms off, eh? Okay. Interesting enough. Now, how I guess let's see. I guess Ryan, how often was he mentioning Vance Dalton?
Just at the beginning that he wanted him down here, and you know he had some beef with him,
Right.
and he thought that you know he stole the bike from him earlier in that. When this was going on, you know, we tried warning people that this was going on, and nobody listened, and nobody said anything, and it was just kind of useless. You know, it's like, well, this guy's making some threats against himself and his family and these other people, and you guys aren't going to do nothing about it. I mean, if it was one of us employees at Eagle Nation and we made a threat to somebody, they'd all come down like they always did.
Right.
And
Right.
like,
Absolutely.
well, you know, here's a guy that, you know, not supposed to have any alcohol or drugs or anything. And he's, you can clearly tell he was intoxicated. As soon as he spoke to me the first time, I knew he was hammered.
Right.
Plus he was really thirsty. He
Right.
drank,
I know he went into your fridge and started drinking your OJ, right?
right. and it's like, yeah, you can go ahead, have the orange juice. I can care
Yeah,
less.
right.
For alcohol? Was he
I don't know what he
Yeah.
was looking for.
He was
but-
asking
Yeah,
what
Yeah, he was
alcohol
asking,
was.
him, you know,
Kept
what do you
asking.
guys got on you? And we're like, it's a friggin' motorcycle shop. We got milk and orange juice. It's time for breakfast. I mean,
But he was asking for the alcohol, if there was any alcohol around.
Yeah, and nobody mentioned the bar downstairs, right?
that wasn't in use.
Well, oh, it wasn't in. Oh, it wasn't stocked.
Yeah.
It was a
But now
private.
you got to
It
remember,
was a private bar then.
yeah, but
Right,
remember
for parties.
Erekose,
Okay.
he had never been in here before. You know, Flatoff had never been in here
Right.
before. So all he knew of this place was what he physically saw on this floor. I mean, he didn't even know that there was a downstairs or, you know, or anything. He was just like, got the orange juice out of the fridge and was asking, you know, where's the alcohol? And they were telling him, we don't have any alcohol in here. It's a bike repair shop.
Right. Right.
So you got to understand, he didn't know there was a bar down there. That would have been a whole different show.
Yeah,
Right.
and none of us had ever met this guy until that day. You know, I'd heard of him, and I was helping Vance trying to, you know, get an understanding of what the hell this guy was doing, and we, you know, but nobody, like I said, nobody cared. It never went anywhere.
Right.
So he asked me to call him up, and I called him up, and I told him, I said, you know, hey, you know, Flatoff's down here with a gun. And, you know, he was like, what the hell? And I said, you know, don't come down here, you know, call the cops on your other phone right now. And he did. And then he started relaying information with, Outagamie County 911. So as Steve was in the basement with Winnebago County 911, there was someone else standing in Kaukauna, which is just up the road.
Right.
And he was on a different 911, you know, I mean,
So
because
was
I left my phone, I had an open phone call for 3.5 hours until the battery went dead.
okay. Right. Okay. So you were on with 911, right? Is that what you're saying?
Relay.
I'm sorry.
I was on with Outagamie County 911, but as in a relay with Vance Dalton.
Okay, in a relay with him. Okay. And then Steve, you're down in the basement on with Winnebago,
Yes, correct.
and then at some point, Flatoff calls in or talks to 911 operators. Is that true?
That was
The negotiator called
Yeah,
him then.
called on our shop line.
Well, they actually have the audio of him telling Michael Funk not to walk out that back door or he'll open fire. He had to be on a phone with police for them to get that audio clip?
He was on a cell phone.
Oh, you know,
I
at
think
that
the
point, I didn't
negotiator
know.
was talking to him on his cell phone because he was walking around with that phone. And that's when he told Michael to go close the door because the cops left the door open. So he was talking to Kathy, the negotiator, where Steve was down in the basement talking to this guy, some guy in the 911 center.
Mhm.
And Vance was talking to the other county's police officers, and that's who was talking to Ryan on Ryan's phone.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking to the negotiator, yes.
Right. Okay. So, and with all these, I mean, that means if your phone was open, Ryan, that means anything Flatoff said would end up getting to the what'd you say it was? The Outgamey?
Yes.
Right? So their dispatch would have ended up recording that and hearing it, right?
Mostly what they could hear.
Right. I'm obviously
I had a
sometimes it might have been
speakerphone and
difficult.
I tried to lay it in places where I thought it would,
But she asked you what he was
And
wearing,
then
and have everybody else take their hat off.
because he walked ML to the front door to make sure it was locked. And
Right.
during that time, I grabbed my phone and I gave a description of everybody in the building, and we all matched except him, because we all had to wear a
Right.
uniform. That's
Right.
the way Steve set it up a million
Eagle
years
Nation attire, right?
ago. And this is the only guy not wearing all black with giant yellow letters. It's
Right.
kind of hard to miss, you know.
Right. The yellow
Yeah.
it does stand out. The reason why I'm wondering is that also Michael was also on the phone at some point posing. He was posing that he was talking to a client or talking about service, but he was actually on with 911 at one point.
He was talking to Mad because that was after Flatoff fired that warning shot, and Mad called the shop line.
No, I called ML's cell phone.
Oh,
I called ML's personal cell phone, and I said, should I call the police? He said, yes, right away.
Right.
And that was at 5 to 9.
So I'm wondering if maybe Wrecking Crew, you guys are out there. If we can find all these various 911 calls, if it's possible for us to find those and collect those, I think it might be interesting. Because here's my next question. Ryan or even Michael, did anybody ever hear Brian Flatoff say, if Vance Dalton isn't here in 5 minutes, I'm going to start shooting people? Did anybody ever hear him say that?
I don't know if it was those exact words, but it was leading up to, if he doesn't get here soon, people are gonna start dying. Because that's when I said to him, because I realized he had no concept of time. And I told him, I said, it's only been like 10 minutes, you know, I mean, he's got to get his stuff together and drive all the way from Kaukauna. You know, I mean, it's going to take him 40 minutes to get here, and it had already been probably 40 minutes. But he thought, and then he said, okay, well, he better get here. Because I kept trying to delay him into doing anything. Because I thought, you know, in the back of my head, I said, what is taking him so long to come through the fucking door? I mean, shouldn't this be over by now? I mean, are they just waiting to collect evidence? What the hell's going on?
Right.
And that's the same thing I was saying in the basement when I was on the 911 call. I kept going, what is taking so long? I know that the guy up here had a gun and was threatening to kill people. So what is taking so long for the police to come in?
Mm-hmm.
From the time they got here, to the time they actually did anything was quite a while.
Yeah.
I told you it wasn't like a TV show.
And when they came through that back door, they were shooting at everything.
Well, that's just it. They had pretty much decided everybody.
My head by about 2 feet. It went right through the water heater.
Right.
And at that time, I went behind the counter, and I thought, okay, any second now, they're going to come around the corner and go, who the fuck are you, and whatever, and this will all be over with. And it never happened. And I thought, oh, shit, they bailed on us. I mean, I thought, this is it. If he's willing to shoot at cops, the rest of us are nothing.
Yeah, yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, the thing is that I'm trying to determine where this supposed comment of I'm going to start shooting people in 5 minutes came from. So
that came from the police negotiator. Was somebody in the police department said that.
Right.
And we
Okay.
never heard it. When we listened to any of the tapes, everything we listened to, we never heard that he was going to kill people in 5 minutes. Then they changed it to 1 minute and said that now he said 1 minute, but we never heard anything in everything that we listened to. And we were very thorough in everything that we followed up with. We never heard a 5 minute or a 1 minute. That was the hasty team's way of getting their hasty team together and coming in the door.
Right. Okay.
Oh, I honestly tell you, we never heard that in anything that we ever found in all the tapes.
Right.
The other thing was when that negotiator, that Kathy, was talking to Flatoff on the phone, and Flatoff told ML to go close the door, and if you try to bail, I'm going to unload on you.
Right.
At that time, she should have radioed those cops that were out
Certainly.
behind the building and said a hostage is coming to the door. He may try to bail out. She never did that.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like a message that I can't even verify was even ever said was moved through the ranks like wildfire. But another piece of pertinent information, like the one you just pointed out, wasn't.
Right.
So it's like, how is that happening? You know, it's just an interesting thing. So
they were in the door for 28 seconds. They never got past the doorway. Two cops fell down the steps when they ran in. Hoffer got smacked in the head, and they were out of here in 28 seconds. All they did was just shoot randomly. I mean, they could have hit Flatoff at 12 yards from where they were. They couldn't hit him, but they could hit Michael at 25 out in the parking lot. Right. Do the math on that one.
Yeah. It's definitely a messed up situation for sure. But Hoffer was compromised. The moment he was hitting the helmet, he was compromised.
Right.
And he should not have been there. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe Erekose when I say that, then just look at the body cam footage from Ross and look at the way that Hoffer's commanding officer acts when he sees Ross. He's like, dude, I love you, but you shouldn't be here. In other words, get the hell out of here. You've been shot in the helmet, and you're a liability. That's what he's telling him. And then Hoffer says, I already shot somebody. He's about getting ready to dance jig and everything. And the commanding officer actually has the proper reaction and says, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Says it very solemnly, just like that.
There came a time when the negotiator was talking to Flatoff, and he said, I want to call my mother. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to start the place on fire, and I'm going to kill myself. And she responds with, is there anybody else in the building? And he said, no. And then Ryan, you spoke up.
And no, Mike
spoke up.
Mike said, I'm here. And then I stood up from behind the counter and said, well, I'm still here, you know, and then he said, you two motherfuckers get out of here. And I came around the counter and I said, you know, can I help Mike up off the floor? He was laying face out on the floor. And this is after everything that happened in here and the fire extinguisher blowing up and nobody could breathe. Nobody could see anything.
Right.
And I helped him up off the floor. And
that's over where you dove, right, Mike? You dove behind a bike over there?
Yeah, underneath the bike stand. Right. I hit the floor as fast as I could.
Right. I remember talking with you about that when I was there on that Friday. So that's cool. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
And by gunpoint, you two motherfuckers get out of here. And that's in his words. And then we walked out in the alley and I looked to the left and I saw ML laying on the ground.
Right.
And then we looked to the right and there's a pile of cops and they're all pointing guns at us and they're all screaming different directions. And I looked at Mike and he looked at me and we kind of both went, well, now we're really screwed. I don't know what to do. I got 7 people yelling at me all kinds of different shit. And I don't know. One of them says, lift up your shirt. Well, would you like to tell me exactly how you would like me to do that?
Exactly. Right. Without thinking I'm reaching for a weapon so you can shoot me?
Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It was just, and then they tackle you. And I'm like, take it easy with the old fart, and meaning Mike.
That's me.
Yeah. Right.
That's affectionate, Yeah.
Now remember, Ryan had his Eagle Nation uniform on.
Right.
So he was dressed with his uniform on.
Yeah.
So they had to know who he was. And Mike usually wears his,
yeah.
he had an Eagle Nation t-shirt on. So, you
And
know,
enough
that
of
would
them
have told you
cops Have
something.
been in here on Saturdays, the ones that were here, to know who I was. They knew that I was here working. I was always here every Saturday. And I mean, I you know, when the window got shot out, I showed up at work on time, and I was sweeping up glass out of the street because we were going to open soon. I knew there was going to be bikes showing up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like there was it was usually me, Mad, and ML. You know, it was like the three amigos. That's what we did here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely.
So for them to question who I was or whatever, it's like, well, for one, I wasn't wearing blue jeans. I don't have long hair, and I'm not wearing a plaid shirt. I mean,
Right.
come on.
Oh, I know. That's another telling thing about this is where these cops are, you know, somewhat quick to pick up in certain ways, and then they're like absolutely just obtuse pieces of shit when it comes to certain other things in the pickup. Like they suddenly seem like idiots at certain times, particularly Hoffer. But yeah, I've got some questions that circle around this. I'll tell you what's circling around for me is Flatoff and his supposed threat about and putting 5 minutes, saying 5 minutes about he's going to start shooting people. From what I gathered from you, Ryan, you felt like the gist of what he was saying was going that way, but I take it you actually didn't hear 5 minutes, right?
I really can't recall.
Okay.
I mean,
Fair enough. Okay. And then just
I never heard it.
you never heard it? Right.
No.
Okay. So so that's an interesting thing. So I'm still wondering where that comes from. And then we have the way that these cops are acting, the way that they come in, and the way that they are automatically deciding that everybody in there is a villain, or everybody in there is a suspect, or the shooter, or whatever, however they want to say it, and they make that decision, to my mind, arbitrarily. I mean, they come in the back door, two guys falling down a staircase, bungling. Everybody's bungling, and whatever. Hoffer's getting hit in the head and the helmet. How is anybody able to assess what the hell's going on inside of Eagle Nation Cycles? And how are they able to be so sure that you guys were all bad guys? You know what I mean? It's for me, it's the assumptions they make, the conclusions they jump to, that show really what they're hoping for, what they want, because they feel it would suit them. Anyway, by making you all public enemy number one, they immediately start to alleviate the responsibility that they might have to face if they shoot one of you. That's the way I look at it. They're trying to devalue you in the eyes of the public, in their department and whatever. They're trying to devalue everybody in the situation, so that if that there's less consequences if everybody ends up dead, or if multiple people end up dead, right? That's what I feel they're doing with that kind of a statement.
Right. I think, the way the bullet holes tell the story from their end, they wanted to shoot everybody that was standing in here. Right. I was way over by the counter, in ML and Flatoff were standing right where we're sitting. Why are you shooting at me? I'm way over here.
Right.
I mean, they shot everything, and it was like, holy shit. I mean, this is it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I see in the video, ML, as soon as he sees them come in, he hits the floor. He goes belly down and hits the floor. And I know obviously Michael was jumping underneath a motorcycle over there, just behind camera 6 there.
Right.
So we didn't see that happening in the video. So, all right. So.
Well, it just showed the power that they thought they had, because they even came back that night. I think I sent you a video that shows the cops coming back in here. You can see the light from outside. They came from the door. When the door opens, you can see a light. They came in and they walked through everything, went through the whole building again. And then they came back at night, because you see them come back in. and it's dark outside and they got flashlights, they come back the next day and they slash all the tires on Steve's vehicle that's parked out and back next to the building.
Right.
I mean, so whatever the object of doing that was, it just, the whole thing didn't make sense. You know, what were they looking for back here at night with the flashlights? And
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there's a report generated for that. If there's not a report generated, that's interesting.
mm-hmm.
So the next thing I want to ask is, Ryan, we'll start with you. How were you treated by Neenah PD once they finally came and got
a shooter and threw me on the ground and sat me in a squad car? I mean, I drew that officer a map of the inside of the building. I gave him my front door key. I said, you guys shot holes in all the monitors. He will not see you coming into the building. Here's my key. Open the front door and go in and take care of business. And they didn't want anything to do with that. And then, you know, I had no phone on me because I left it laying where I was crouched behind the counter. I thought, well, if they cut the phone lines, at least there's something recording something somewhere. I don't know how that works.
Right.
Those
are good thoughts, though, by the way.
Well, hey.
These crooked bastards.
Anyway. Right. You know, you got to protect yourself. And I'm sitting in the squad car, and probably an hour went by before they said, you know, hey, is there anybody you want to call? And I'm like, yeah, it'd be great, but I don't have a phone. Can you take these fucking handcuffs off me, by the way? I mean, I didn't establish I didn't do anything wrong. I'm getting a little tired of sitting on my hands.
Right.
And then he finally took the handcuffs off me. And after about another hour, I'm like, you know, where's my son? I mean, what'd you guys do with him? Oh, he's over here and he's fine. Well, somebody's gonna have to take me over there so I can see this for myself, or we're gonna have a whole new bunch of problems.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it was just ridiculous, you know. And then I mean,
yeah, they're not treating you like hostages.
No, I've been in worse spots with cops than that, and they treated me better in other states. I mean, you know, if you're not doing anything wrong, they generally figure it out pretty quick.
Right.
And then you know, okay, now we're going down to the station and we're gonna go over this whole freaking thing again with some other cop and I didn't know who I was talking to, you know, and I just, you know, I just want to get the hell out of here. I've had it. I don't know where anybody is. I don't know if anybody's alive, or I didn't even know if ML was dead yet. And this was because nobody told me anything.
Right.
I found out about it on their front fucking lawn from one of our guys that used to work here. That's how I found out about it.
On their front lawn? Who's there?
At the PD.
On their
when they finally let me go, that's who picked me up, and I collapsed right there in the front lawn.
Yeah.
And then I think I went over to Mad's house. I think right after that, because I was looking for him. I didn't know where he was. You know, I mean, it had been like 12 hours since we all saw each other. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty shabby treatment, really. Especially considering you're supposed to be a hostage and you're supposed to be ranking higher in the list of priorities, right?
I felt like everything I was telling them, somehow this is going to get me in trouble. And I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But I just felt like, man, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble for this, and I don't even know why yet.
Right. All right. So how about you, Michael? What was your experience like being arrested by the Neenah PD that day? Or being detained?
Pretty much the same as Ryan.
They're being really rough with you, Michael?
They didn't treat me the best, I'll guarantee you that.
Oh, wow.
I was, I think, 72 at that time. I had just had a heart surgery a few years before, triple bypass. Had surgery on my legs. That's why it was hard for me to get up underneath the bike rack.
Right.
But when we went out, I had my arms out about as far as I could.
Right.
I didn't trust them one iota either.
Right.
Rhino and I walked out together, and I said something to the effect that where the hostages were coming out, don't shoot. And well, like Rhino had said, they were yelling. There was no leader of the pack out there. They were all yelling different things, and
Yeah.
we really didn't know what the hell we're doing. I know they grabbed me and took me one way, Rhino the other, and uh, it wasn't really a search. Whatever I had in my pockets, they grabbed out, threw on the ground, handcuffed me behind my back, threw me in a car, took me up on Main Street there where probably 50, 60 cops were.
Hmm.
And I sat in there for I don't know how long. Finally, they uncuffed me. I was on I call it a piss pill, water pill, I guess, illegal.
Right.
And I told the cop, I says, hey, I'm going to have to take a whiz here. And
Hey, Kay, could you turn the screen towards him just a little bit? Because he's kind of half off of the screen. Sorry.
okay. So I told him, I got to take a whiz. And I live right behind here. I just let me get home. I got to get my medicine. And he said, just open the door and whiz out here. Well, there's 50 cops walking around and that what I had two choices. Piss my pants or hang her out. So
Yeah.
I hung it out.
Wow.
And that's right out on Main Street. And naturally, there was no traffic. It was blocked off.
That's shameful. That's
Yeah,
shameful that they're acting that way.
and the stuff that I had in my pockets, fortunately, it was still laying there the next morning. That's when I finally got it back. They never even threw it in an envelope, took it down to the police station or anything. So no, it wasn't a good experience.
Right. No, yeah, that.
And by then they must have known I wasn't I wasn't a
Right.
criminal.
How long did they hold you?
Boy, about hours and hours.
Did you sit in the cop car for 2 hours and then like they
Oh
took you
God,
down to the station or
longer. I was there longer than that.
longer than that?
Finally, I got out of the squad car after hours and hours, and I says, "I'm going." He says, "Where are you going?" I says, "I'm going home. Gonna
Yeah.
get my medicine." And then all of a sudden, they found a squad car to run me down to the police
Oh, there
station.
you go.
Yeah, after hours and hours and hours of sitting there. So then I went down to the police station and waited, and then I gave a statement for what I could remember of it.
Right.
It's a shocking situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
For sure.
it's every day you get a gun shoved in your face, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's just shameful. I mean, for them to ask you, so they did handcuff you, right?
Yeah, I was handcuffed behind my back.
And how long did they leave those on you?
I would say probably an hour.
In about an hour, just like Ryan. Okay.
I would say about, they separated us, of course. We
Right.
were.
But roughly about an hour for, yeah. So it sounds like
I
around
would
an
say,
hour. They found out something and decided to take the cuffs off. It's
yeah.
interesting. So, all right. And then that's just absolutely shameful that guy's telling you to just, whiz out the cop car door or whatever. That's
Exactly what they told me.
That's just bizarre. I mean, that's just like for somebody like you, I mean, that's just pretty messed up that they were being that big of jerks about that. Yeah, absolutely. That's just shameful. So I guess I have one more question, I guess, for you guys today. And it has to do with Vance. I was curious about, and I guess maybe even Steve might be able to answer this one as well. Did Vance bring a lot of bikes into Eagle Nation? Was he a common, client there or customer?
He was kind of a regular customer for a while. We all knew who he was,
Yeah.
and he ate here and he'd hang around with the guys and stuff in back, and he was a regular.
All right. Okay. I was just curious about that. Let's see here.
If I can.
Did they actually try to charge either of you guys with anything? Michael or Ryan?
No,
No.
no.
No, they didn't try to do that. How'd you end up, Ryan, getting away from it, or getting out, or being done with it? I guess
I had to give him my statement and go through it for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours in a separate room with a detective from Menasha, the neighboring city.
right.
And then after I was done, I said, "You okay? Am I done? Is that it?"
Mhm.
"Yeah, you're free to go, but we'll be in touch." And I'm like, "Hey, you got my phone, so good luck." And I didn't get that back for 30 days. They had my phone.
Oh wow!
Because for some reason, they went through all of our stuff in all of our computers looking for child pornography. I mean, it's like, what in the hell is the matter with you people?
Yeah, it sounds like they were deliberately misinterpreting things, turning it into a fishing expedition. I mean, this is not the way honorable, well-meaning cops operate. It's just not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Just like they said, expect retaliation from the biker community when they sent out this bulletin to all the neighboring cities, and the neighboring cities answered back, "Well, we're not putting on any extra staff. We see no threat here." Because they all thought, what in the hell's the matter with you people in Neenah? There's nothing going on there.
Right.
I don't really know any names, but I've heard from several different departments in the last few years that, the cops have said that, it's just a shame. It's just a shame how everything went down.
Yeah,
It wasn't
it certainly is.
Yeah.
It certainly is. I mean, that's really a good word to sum it up. Shame. Shameful behavior of Neenah
the thing
PD,
is, though,
particularly with you, Ryan, and Michael. I mean, that's shameful the way they treated you guys as hostages. So many things. Sorry, Kay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, though, the other thing that's really, really horrible is, these cops, all these hundreds of cops that were involved in this, they got counseling right away. They get administrative leave with pay. I went over to Steve's house, and the volunteer, I don't even know what they were, some resources, retired school teachers came over to Steve's house and gave his 2 daughters a teddy bear and sat and tried to, they couldn't even get their computer hooked up to give him some papers that, he could check with Department of Justice and see if there was any help out there. I had already gotten the papers. I gave them to Ryan and I gave them to Steve. So Steve said, well, Kay already gave us all that. They said, well, you can probably do more than we can. They were the volunteer response team is what they were. So they didn't do anything. So when I was helping Ryan working with Department of Justice, they said that if he wanted any counseling, that he would have to either go through his employer to pay for it, or he would have to pay for it himself. Mike Peterson gets a letter from somebody at Fox Valley Tech 2 weeks later that didn't even make any sense. So my point is, these hostages who just went through this horrific thing,
Right.
saw their friend get killed or saw him dead out there, got no kind of help at all. Steve couldn't even get into the VA until March, and we had to pull teeth to get that to happen.
Yeah.
So they treated the hostages horribly through this whole thing, not only that day, but for months and months after that. There was never any kind of counseling or help. But the police officers got all the counseling, paid leave, everything.
It's absolutely shameful. It's it's absolutely shameful. The way that Neenah PD has conducted themselves throughout this entire thing is just shameful.
It's horrible.
I can't see hardly anything that they've done right. And when you see that many things wrong, there's usually a reason. There's usually a rhyme and a reason. It's kind of like one of those things where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah. So I think we're seeing lots of smoke, in my opinion. But
we have an inferno and nobody can find it.
Right. You just got to find that fire where it is. But there's lots of smoke. Seriously. So we'll keep digging. I tell you what, it sounds like Becky's still digging too. It sounds like Becky's still invested.
You'll get some good stuff out of Becky.
So we're going to talk to Becky this weekend sometime, folks, everybody. Be looking for that. For those of you who don't know who Becky is, Becky was the investigator for one of Flat Off's attorneys, a guy named Keck. He was Flat Out's attorney for a while, and so Becky is an investigator for him. She was looking into this whole situation. She has some information, and she has agreed to come on with me this weekend. So you guys can look forward to that coming up this weekend. Is there anything else that you guys would like to say, or anything about that day maybe that stands out that you wanted to let people know about?
Well, the one thing I want to say, Richard,
Mhm.
I mean, I was the last one out of the building.
Right.
And I was brought to the police station in handcuffs. It was obvious we were to be arrested. Okay, because
Right.
I could see what was happening. I could see the way we were being treated.
Right.
Cops with guns right in my face, screaming. That's not how you treat hostages.
They read us our rights. They read us our rights.
Right. Well, they put you in cuffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
what do you mean you're reading me my rights? What? Be careful with the old guy.
yeah. Right.
I mean,
Right? Don't forget the old guy.
it was just it was so screwed up. It's like,
That's
There's
right.
another thing I forgot to mention was when my son got pulled out of his truck, he had said, my dad's in there, and you might hear a clip that I've heard it on YouTube before that, we have the shooter's son. And then you hear a couple of seconds later, no, I guess his dad works there.
Right.
And they thought, we have the shooter's son in custody.
Right. Okay.
It's like, no, and he was trying to, that screwed him up for a long time. We're all kind of still screwed up. We never got to talk to anybody. We never got to get rid of it.
Left jaded. Yeah, I agree.
They wanted to play the narrative that we were out to bait the cops to come in, and we were all involved in this shooting.
Right.
We were all out, Mike here, Rhino and me. The three of us were, and ML, were baiting the cops to come in so we could open up.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't a typical hostage situation.
Yeah, we weren't all duct taped to the freaking floor. I
Right.
mean, the guy's holding a gun. If he says sit down in the chair, you're going to sit down in the chair.
Yeah, go work on my bike. You're going to go work on his bike.
He already shot one bullet through the ceiling, so I thought, well, he's not afraid to make any noise. That's apparent.
I agree. I don't know what these cops expected you guys to be doing. Like if they expected to come in and see you guys kung fu fighting with Flat Off or something. I don't know, but it's just ridiculous. It's obviously the guy waving the gun's going to be the one that gets listened to.
Right.
Well, we'd like to know how many hostage situations Nina actually had to make this not typical.
Yeah. Good question.
Zero.
Yeah, at the time it was, they were like the cops and Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Right.
Our very own charming PD right here.
Right. So, yeah. Towards the end, when the old guy gets outed as the police chief, right?
Right.
You start getting the new dogs in.
And Eric, what happened with those cops? All had body cameras on, but amazingly, some of them weren't working again.
Right? Oh, isn't it the way? It's amazing how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always conveniently. It's always so convenient when those things happen, right?
Just like they said that they were yelling the command at ML to drop his weapon. And they never did. And the mayor said, he heard it. And the chief of police said, we had a witness another cop from Menasha that said he heard it. And Steve and I kept telling them, well, show us the tape, show us where they did it. 6 months later, when the tape finally came out and it showed that they never did yell the command, the city attorney said to us, well, they didn't have to do that. It's not a Wisconsin state law.
That's exactly it. Then you got Hoffer switching around going, well, I didn't say anything because it was a tactical situation and I didn't want to, whatever. That's when that stuff starts coming out. So, yeah.
But the chief was so sure. The mayor was so sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That change of story for Hoffer is huge, in my opinion. I mean, look, when you're
there's so much about Hoffer.
When you tell the truth, you tell the truth. But problem is when you tell lies, you forget the lies you told before. And that's what happens with Hoffer, is that he just forgets about lies he made up before and just goes with whatever story is going to get his ass out of the fire. Right? And
they match up or not.
Yeah, and whether they match up or not, yeah, exactly. And that's one thing I will call attention to is the guy's a lying sack of crap. In a lot of ways, you know.
They asked him in April, even after that, if he knew Michael Funk, and even in April, he said, "No, I never knew him.
Never saw him before.
Never saw him. Didn't know it was him. Nope."
Yeah. Well, I know that he saw him 3 months prior.
Yeah, he did.
Sure that we can get more, you know, things, you know, more, possibly more things, you know, to prove that they knew each other or had met or talked or whatever over that 3 year period. Clearly, Hoffer was very interested in what was going on at Eagle Nation Cycles because he was just ended up being around and involved so much, you know.
Yeah, he was being sued.
Like, don't they have any other officers over at Neenah PD? Is he like the only one?
Right, and you would think, like, when our window got shot out and he came down here, that lawsuit was already going on.
Yeah.
So you'd think they would send somebody else, but no. Let's send the guy down there that
Send the guy
involved in a lawsuit with these people to handle the shot out window. Because I made the phone call to Officer Hoffer that day and gave him a description of the vehicle, and because nobody apparently could figure out what it was from the camera. I looked at it for 2 minutes and I'm like, it's like a mid-90s Ford pickup and it's tan. Right. And it's got a gas can in the back. How hard is this to find?
He knew who it was.
Well, yeah, but you know, it's stuff like that. I remember talking to him and just fucked up. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Hoffer knew who it was because I watched the tape when he went over there, when he finally went over there to arrest the guy. And he was so friendly with him and he was laughing and, you know, carrying on with him. Come on, Gary, I believe his name was Gary. He was going, come on, Gary, you know, you did that. You know, we got it on camera. We got your truck. And he even knew who the guy was. So he just played big shot walking in here. And he looks at ML and says, looks like somebody doesn't like you guys.
Yeah. Did you have any prior threats before this? No, like the guy who threw the beer can through the other window. Yeah, I'm sure he was pissed off. I don't know. Gun anyway. I mean,
yeah.
Right. He likes having control of that.
Yeah. A rally there, fire Hoffer. Travis just said, sorry, in the chat. Travis just suggested that we need to have a rally there in Neenah, and where it's all based on fire Hoffer.
Fired, he got promoted.
Oh, it'd be all our fault because you remember that release that he made that he's still afraid for his life after all these years that people from Eagle Nation are going to come after him. Because that'd be a smart move. Let's go after more cops. I mean,
well, he's teaching cops now out to the tech, so they really promoted him.
That guy shouldn't be teaching anybody anything.
Right.
Shouldn't. How would you?
He should be teaching prisoners how to make license plates.
Yeah. Look, anytime you've just taken a human life, I don't care if you feel it was justified or not. Anytime you've just taken a human life, you should not look like you're about ready to dance a jig. If you look like you're about ready to dance a jig after that, something's wrong. And so there's something wrong with him.
Yeah. To me, they murdered the person they wanted to, and they'd have murdered more if they could have.
I agree.
There is sufficient suspicion to definitely, consider that possibility. I mean, it's certainly, we can't find the smoking gun, but there's certainly a lot of circumstantial suggestion of it. But hopefully, hopefully something will turn up. Hopefully keep talking about it. Keep, hopefully something will turn up that will, turn the tide or make a difference.
We'll keep the awareness out there, that's for sure.
And that's what I'm hoping to do too. And educate more people about what happened here. And I'd like to see people get fired up and see the sense in, at least, if nothing else, at least that people will see the sense in the fact that if you have an officer who's hit by fire, hit in the helmet, whatever, hit and doesn't get, injured or doesn't get hospitalized, it's just a glancing blow on a helmet, whatever, the most people know that those people need to be removed because they're compromised. At that point, any decision they make is going to be questionable, most likely, because they're thinking with their emotions, they're mad, their pride is hurt. There's just a lot going on after you're hit like that by a bullet. I mean, adrenaline and all those things. And so it's not really a good idea to have that person continuing to be involved. And that's pretty well accepted, because I can tell you, as I said before, even Hoffer's commanding officer displayed the fact that he knew that he was like, why are you still here? Get the hell out of here. You know? And so that's clear. So if nothing else, I hope people watching this will at least take that much away from it and realize that, in these situations, you need to take officers like Hopper who are hit out of the equation. It's necessary.
Well, this can happen anywhere. This could happen anywhere. It can happen.
Yeah, and it could happen anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
It's important for everybody to know that where they are. I mean, hey, you don't ever want to find yourself in a convenience store sometime and somebody comes in and robs it and find yourself in a hostage situation, and then you finally get out of it only to be shot by the cavalry, right? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that, right? I mean, I think we can all agree there. So,
we've heard from a lot of people, a lot of local people that live here too, that say, they're really scared of the Nina cops now. They're afraid of being pulled over, by a Nina cop, because they don't know what they're capable of doing. And it does scare a lot of people. It really shook this little town up.
I still have a problem with it. Every time I drive down the street, I see one of them. I look at every single one of their faces, and I'm just waiting for, I'm constantly walking on eggshells.
Right.
And I don't know if they have a revolving door of employees or anything, but I mean, I wonder, do they know it's me? Or are they going to look for me on something? I mean, I work in the city locally, and I drive around all day, and I think, are they going to mess with me when I'm at work? I mean, when this whole thing happened, I had to use my vacation time to get, for a week I couldn't go to work. I mean, I was a mess.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Barely left my house.
Yeah, absolutely. You were good friends with Michael, right?
Yeah, he was like a father to me. 10 years ago, well, 12 almost, he, I came hanging around. I had a bike that needed to be worked on. And, it was the second time I met Steve, and the first time I met ML, and they kind of took me under their wing. They saw something in me that, we're not going to let this guy fall through the cracks, and they straightened me out. I had a drug and a drinking problem, and you're just not going to drink anymore ever. And I didn't for 10 years until right after he died.
Oh.
And it was a profound. I called him Pops. Him and his wife babysat my daughter and my kids, and if I had any problems, I went to him immediately for everything. It didn't matter what it was or what time it was. He was there for me. He came to kids' birthday parties.
Look what Autumn did after it happened.
Yeah, my daughter went through some serious problems. I had to have her hospitalized because she was so traumatized by his loss. I mean, it was such a heartbreak.
Yeah. It's shocking that Nina didn't, especially after the way they treated you guys that day, that they didn't offer something to help you guys with the emotional pain, or at least offer a professional to help you guys or something.
Well, they did, but I would have had to pay for it, and then they would reimburse.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't have had to pay for it.
Yeah, that's like saying we'll give you your whole tax return back.
Up to $1,000.
Yeah,
$1,000 in therapy. What does that get you a month?
No. They should be paying for it. That's just ridiculous.
Still, 4th of July fireworks every year. It still bothers me. I got no interest in it or anything that makes a lot of noise for that matter.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I go to the gun range just to shoot my guns because I enjoy it, but at the same time, I don't like hearing the sound anymore.
Right. Yeah. I can imagine.
But it also affected these kids, that came in here on Saturday mornings. They loved ML.
Mm-hmm.
And when we did have a memorial thing for him, we did invite all the kids down so that they could have some a little bit of closure. And it was really hard to talk to the, kids on one side out of your mouth to tell them cops are good guys when, they're seeing their good friend being killed by the cops.
Right.
And I mean, he was more than just a guy that fixed motorcycles. Like Ryan said, he took him under his wing, his family, his children, all these kids. I sent you a picture of some of these kids sitting at the counter, and I had to laugh when I looked at the picture because one little boy's sitting there with a bowl in front of him, and another one's got a plate in front of him. I don't know what they were feeding him that day, but they sure had something going in that kitchen.
Well,
Probably ran out of plates, so one of them got a bowl, right? It's like, bowl work, here you go.
no, Mad's a pretty healthy cook, so he took care of the kids just like they were his own. He always has.
Yeah, I wish I could have met him.
Those days are gone now.
It's tragic. It truly
And
is.
we actually learned about the looking for child porn through one of Flatov's attorneys told us that that's why they took all the computers and the phones and everything they could, because they were looking for child pornography because they had the kids down here and fed them, and they had them down in the skateboard thing downstairs.
Oh.
And this was after everything went down. So they just they came through and they wrecked all the Christmas decorations that they had up for the kids, tore them all down, which had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, and we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
I know, it's terrible. There's nothing about anything here that Neenah PD did that looks in any way proper to me. Now, I'm sure that it was within the boundaries of legality, but it's not within the boundaries of ethics, in my opinion. And it certainly is just tragic. Sorry?
I said there's no law against ethics.
Yeah, well, that's true. But, for me, it's just where there's, like I said, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's just a lot of janky stuff going on here. They're just not doing things. They're just not doing things the normal way.
Right. And you're going to find out as you go on and talk to Becky and talk to other people. I think you'll be surprised some of the stuff that you find out. So.
Well, like I said, I found out quite a few things yesterday, and but we'll be talking to Becky this weekend, as I said. So, I guess, what were some of the things that you and Michael Funk would do for fun, Ryan?
Oh, well, our common best friend was a really old man named Bandit, and we'd go to Green Bay and way older than old Mike. We'd go to Green Bay and just hang out with them, and we go to the gun range and shoot our guns and have fun. And to be honest, most of the fun that me and ML had, we go to a restaurant and eat.
Right.
I mean, that was pretty much the fun we had, was wherever we could go and eat was a good time.
Yeah. Hey man, food makes memories.
For him though, after that raid, he went from, him and I would go here or go there or do this or go to Fleet Farm or any sporting goods store. After that, he didn't go anywhere. He went to his house and he went to his shop, and it was a total shut-in. To get him to go out and do something was extremely rare, and it can only be like maybe 3 places. And like the tavern next door, a couple of friends of ours come from out of town, and we'd sit over there on the patio and have some drinks and stuff, and that was it, and he would just be irritated. You just wanted to go home, and that was it.
Oh.
And he was forever changed after the day of that raid, and he felt like, and Neenah made us all feel like that. And you still walking around town or going to the grocery store with an Eagle Nation shirt on, people look at you different. They think, is this guy here to rob the store, or is he actually a good guy? Because there's no clear-cut answer to anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the cops said it was justified in what they did. Well, yeah, because the other cops said it was okay. I mean, we investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong. So, everybody can go about their business. that the blame on us somehow when we had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Well,
We're just here.
right. And the whole 2012 raid has just got issues. I mean, there's issues there. It's just missing 20 seconds, the finding nothing, Hoffer's the head of it. It's just so many things that just stand out that, are troublesome for me. So maybe that's something Becky and I will get into this weekend. So it was a pleasure having you guys here and getting to speak with you. If there's any other things that are occurring to you that you would want to convey, or anything else from that day?
Have you read my police report?
I don't think so. It hasn't been given to me. I don't think. If you guys, do you have a physical copy of it, or is it available online?
It's available online. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. I thought Kay had a copy of it.
I may have a copy of it.
Okay. But that is the absolute truth of everything that happened in this building.
And that's going to be when your memory was fresh, so that's going to be fairly accurate.
The cop he goes, wow, that's probably the most detailed statement I've ever heard. And I said, well, I don't want you to screw anything up. So exactly what happened.
Yeah, because I saw the drawing and everything.
Right. Yeah, they have a copy of the drawing that I made them along with my police report. So they knew exactly where everybody was at the time that I last saw everything.
Right.
So,
yeah, so that's definitely, I'll definitely try and get my hands on that. So, yeah, if you have it, Kay, just send it over, email it or something. If not, I'll try and find it out. Oh, Travis has read it. Oh, it's in the DCI?
Yeah, it should be all in that DCI thing.
All right. There's thousands of pages there, but I'll see if I can try to figure it out.
All the statements, Mike's and Steve's and Ryan's are in there.
One thing I'd like to add, Eric, is that we were only talked to the day of the shooting of Michael Funk. We were never talked to again.
Right.
Anybody doing that investigation. Now, besides owning the building and being here, what kind of investigation does the government do where we're not allowed to ask any questions? There's no transparency. And, for Hoffer, they talked to him for months. For us, they talked to us for a day under the assumption we're being arrested.
Right.
Because that's sure as hell how it felt. Like I said, I felt like I was doing something wrong and I didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely not right. And I mean, that's actually very telling, Steve. I mean, they were interested enough to detain you guys and treat you like criminals that day, but then had no interest in what happened after that. I mean, to me, that's another just strange thing.
Yeah, zero interest.
Yeah. Zero interest, right? I mean, yeah. So how's that? I mean, how do you not want, how would you not? How would that not be important? The vantage point of the hostages in the building.
Because we're the percent of the population that doesn't matter, apparently.
Well, and that may be. I mean, it could be that Neenah PD doesn't like the bikers. I mean, and that could be what this is all boiling down to. I know it wouldn't surprise me if it does, because I'll just tell you something that happened today on my Facebook page. Okay. I posted pictures of me and a lot of Stephen and Brendan supporters at Raleigh. And it was from the month of June. I have a friend who is a police officer. He's in law enforcement. He saw the post, and the immediate thought that he had was to say, they're both guilty, lock them up and throw away the key and let them rot. And that's the way this, and I know lots of law enforcement people that are just like that. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit to find out that Neenah does have a bias against bikers. That wouldn't surprise me.
Oh yeah.
So it's unfortunately the way it goes with law enforcement. But then on the other hand, if you put yourself in law enforcement shoes, think about all the crap they see all the stupid things they find people doing, see people doing, catch people doing, and all the, I mean, they really do get to see the worst of humanity in their jobs.
Not Nina. Not Nina.
Not Nina?
Not Nina.
A lot of my family members, brothers-in-law, cousins, uncles, they're in law enforcement.
Oh, really?
So even though I'm the biker, I'm still related to all these cops and firemen and all these other people. I know what they go through, and I know what they've been through. And it's still, it doesn't make a difference because we didn't do anything wrong. So when I talk to them about it, you know, they say, well, how did that happen? I don't know. Ask your blue line. I don't know. I mean, right. How are you asking me these questions? You know, I was told to answer questions and that was it.
Right.
You know, what happened in the best of your memory? Well, here you go. And I thought I had a pretty clear cut.
Yeah, I'm going to be very interested to read your statement. I'll tell you what. Because I honestly feel like whatever you're going to be saying when it's fresh in your mind is going to be pretty accurate. So I'm actually kind of intrigued to read that now. It's actually been great talking to everybody. I actually found out a few things today, or at least got to ask a few questions and get your responses. That I wanted to see your responses, so I actually got to get that today. I mean, a lot of interesting stuff here. I can't tell you how shameful it is the way that you guys were treated as hostages that day, cuffed, left in a car for hours, then taken down to the station to give statements for hours. And the general disrespect of that and everything is just terrible. Just absolutely terrible. Along with the disrespect of, you know, what happened to your good friend, Michael.
I would have been here for your first, when you came to visit, but I had to work, and in the back of my mind, ML would be saying, no, you're not missing a day of work. He was very particular. I saw him every morning he would come into the shop at, 5:30, 5:45 in the morning, and I'd drive by the building every day, and he'd be waiting out on the street to wave to me. We always met at the same spot. And if I wasn't there within 10 minutes, he was calling me, why aren't you at work? I'd be like, well, I'm playing sick today. And he'd say, no, you're not. You're coming down here. If you're fine, you can do work here then. That's how it was, and yeah, okay, Pop, you got it. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's great that you used to call him Pop. I know that there was friends of mine whose parents, like when I would go visit them when I was a kid, when I'd go hang out with friends, I would call some of my friends' parents, mom and dad too, because they were just that close. They were just that, nice and friendly, and they cared, So there was a couple of friends of mine whose parents I also called mom and dad. So that's actually, I could tell you and Michael were really close. It's also interesting that that what you were saying about him not going out anymore after what happened in 2012 and being kind of a homebody, as it were.
You are.
Yeah, it's just terrible. It seems like the actions of Nina PD here have just been nothing but toxic, really, in almost every way. And it doesn't, I mean, and even to themselves, because they bungle so badly, right? They bungle everything. So it's like they didn't even get satisfaction. I mean, we end up with Michael Funk, who is killed by Hoffer. We end up, just this train wreck of a situation where it's just miserable all the way around. And it's just, and it's all seems to be precipitated by Nina PD and their actions, setting it all in motion. So that's the way I feel about it, but,
Yeah, why couldn't they just left us alone?
That's true. I don't know why they seem to have a issue, but they clearly did.
They want the building.
Well, there's definitely something to be said there. You got all those brand new buildings there in downtown Nina, but nowhere to park cars. right?
Well,
So
as soon as they started tearing down the mills and everything else around us, we kind of figured it won't be long until something happens here.
right.
I mean, there was always a plan to move somewhere else if that was going to happen. And I mean, you can see progress coming. It's not, I mean, we're right on the corner. You're not blind to it.
Right.
But going about it the way they did, now, come on. I mean, like I said, it's not a TV show. This is real life. You got to treat people different.
Right.
Can't just say cut and start over because you didn't like it.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's clear that they're dressing up that part of town. And my buddy Travis, he's my lawyer. He lives in Texas. He hangs out on my channel. And he was pointing out that, oh, they could have just done eminent domain. It makes no sense for them to use the SWAT team or whatever. And it's like, oh, yeah, but they never did. Or
Well,
did
they did. They did try. They tried to use the eminent domain, but they couldn't because this was a
because they'd already made it a crime scene. So right, like I said, they keep bungling.
Oh, it was a crime scene. It was a crime scene when they came up. The mayor told us they would never. Told Steve and I, we would never take that building by eminent domain. And all of a sudden, we see him on TV one day talking about the building, and he's like, "Well, you know, we're looking at taking it by eminent domain." Well, 3 attorneys jumped in so fast and said, "Well, now it's a crime scene, so you can't touch it now."
Right. So it's like, yeah, that's the kind of thing I mean. Is like they're clearly desiring to get it, but they're like so stupid and bungling and eager that they're kind of stepping on their own unit, as it were, as they're trying to do it. They're just stepping on their own toes, I guess we'll say. But that's one thing I see here. But for me, that shows their clear intent that they really did want to get their hands on that parcel of property. And most likely you guys are right that they wanted to build some kind of parking structure, because literally I remember that little street next to your building where that really nice new building is across the street, that those 3 parking spots kept filling up and there was people circling trying to find another spot. I mean, they clearly get a lot of traffic there, and I could understand that they would like if there was a parking lot there, but
well, the mayor was parking spaces short from what his promise was to the people that built that building. He couldn't come up with enough parking spaces that he had promised them in the beginning. So.
Okay. So yeah, it's all fishy. I mean, like I said, it all kind of suggests, dirty dealings under the table, just untoward stuff happening. So thank you all for being here today.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks.
Very interesting. Very interesting to hear from you as well, Mike, and you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And great to talk to you again, Steve and Kay, as always. It's always a pleasure.
Yep, you as well. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. And like I said, I'll let you guys know what time I'm setting it up with Becky for this weekend.
Please do.
So that you guys can be there and tune in.
You bet.
All righty.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, everybody out there, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see ya.
I got it. Tom's getting there.